recording now.
Very funny.
Hey,
I'm recording.
hey, everybody, welcome back to Film Tangents Podcast. I forgot the name of the podcast. It's been a little minute, hasn't it?
What the fuck, Edward? It's only been a couple weeks.
Everybody, if you're listening, welcome back. I know it's been a few weeks. I hope we've not stayed away too long that you forgot about us. But
Yeah.
we're here.
Yep. Whether you forgot about us or not, we have returned.
Yeah, we have returned.
to your lives.
Whether you wanted us or not, we're here. We are like sequels. We're like all the Transformers sequels. Whether you wanted us or not, we're here. Somebody wanted us, and usually that somebody is in the Asian market.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're just gonna keep on making them, whether you want them or not.
Exactly. I'm here. I'm doing my best. Lalo, drinking a Modelo on a Thursday.
Lalo Salamanca.
I have something for you.
Lives.
I have like a question that I wanted. Like I've had this written down since I listened to Cordae, that Cordae album, The Lost Boy that I recommended to you. Because I also listened to, his second album, From a Bird's Eye View, and it kind of made me ask myself something because of kind of like the nature of art and the nature of things in a way, and it is, what is your take on the sophomore slump creatively, whether it's movies or whether it is music or anything? That's what I wanted to ask you, and I wanted us to kind of bring some examples about like, the best like first go at something from a filmmaker or artist, and then like their follow up that just turned out to be absolute shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the sophomore slump.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good question. Caught me off guard. Well, do you have examples?
Oh yeah, because I think famously, and this has been happening more than not lately with hip hop, but famously, Chance the Rapper released a few mixtapes, right? He released Coloring Book, which was people like really like liked that one, and he released the mixtape before that, which I think was like Free, Acid Rap. But then the second that he releases his album, right? The second that it's like, oh, the second big project is coming, after Coloring Book, the album's coming. Yeah. The second that happens, everybody hates it. Everybody hated it, that album. Like when it came out, so much so that he was getting like death threats. And he went on like Twitter before he like quit it. I think he's back on Twitter now. But he quit Twitter for a while. Because he went on Twitter and he just said like, I feel like you guys just want me to kill myself, when the album came out, and people doubled down, like the reception was horrendous, and obviously Fantano didn't help because he gave that album like a 0 or like a 0.85 or something, like less, like less than 1, but I guess not.
Is this the Big Day?
The Big Day, yeah. The album where, because I remember, not only that, but when that album came out, there were a lot of like meme songs with people who had like done like imitating his voice or like AI generating his voice and making songs where he just says like, "Ooh, I love my wife," and that's all he says, because people were clowning like the lyrics in the album and stuff. But the funny thing is that before he came out with The Big Day, he had been riding this wave of just so much love, so much appreciation. He was in a humongous amount of commercials, Dorito commercials, milk commercials. Like he was in everything, Chance the Rapper. That album came out, he disappeared. I mean, have you seen that guy? Have you seen Chance the Rapper? Has he been featured in anything that you've heard?
No, not at all.
And it was,
and I'm okay with it. Like, obviously for his own sake, I'm like, that's sad and everything, but. I never liked Chance the Rapper. Like even his original stuff, like Acid Rap and Coloring Book. It's like, oh god, I can't stand that guy's voice, man.
Yeah, I also think he sounded like Lil Wayne a little bit.
It's like a mix of Lil Wayne and Young Thug.
Yeah,
and then just his annoying self
Yeah.
as well.
But that's like the thing that I'm trying to get at, right? Because that happened to him, and obviously that happened to him famously, But that happened to Cordae too. He released the Lost Boy, and it got nominated for a Grammy.
Yeah.
And like for 2 years, he just rode that wave, of just being known as like the young guy who did what Kanye did, released his very first album, immediately was nominated for the Grammys, like people were just being like, oh, this guy's the next best thing, the next, like the next J. Cole, like the next like artistic, successful, conscious-ish rapper.
Yeah.
Second album comes out. Everything falls apart. Same thing happened with what's his name, Roddy Rich, right? Like, say,
Yeah.
we have to pause.
Hold up, my dog's barking at me. Hang on, let him out.
And that's the thing. Like, it happened to Chance, it happened to Cordae, it happened to Roddy Rich. He released the first album, that one where like that song "The Box" one it was in, the one that goes like that song. You know what I'm talking about, right?
On which album?
That song, you know what I'm talking about? That song, "The Box."
On which album?
It's called "Sorry for Being Antisocial," I think.
Wait.
Roddy
Sorry for
Rich.
being antisocial.
Yeah, it came out like I think like our third year or like our fourth year.
No, I don't know that song. I don't think I listened to Roddy Rich.
Oh, dude, I can promise you've heard that song. I've been with you in situations where that song was like playing in the background. You probably just tuned it out.
Yeah.
But the same thing happened to him. That album came out. Everybody liked it. That song was huge. Second album comes out, dude's falling off. He got so much negative reception of that second album that he deleted his Instagram. That's like how that's how bad it was. So I just wanted to bring that up because it's like been on my mind heavy. There's this idea of like the sophomore slump. So there's these artists who avoid that. Kanye famously, went on like a 7 album run where like just back to back to back to back to back. Like great albums.
Yeah.
But what do you
And a lot of
attribute that?
times-
What do you attribute that to?
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, and a lot of times too, the second either movie in a series or work will be even better than the first one.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
sometimes.
So for me, I think maybe it's just try. It could be a number of things. I feel like.
Do you think they're one-trick ponies?
Well, yeah. So some people are one-trick ponies. I think.
Like Check West.
Right. So yeah, in the rap world, there's a ton of those.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, Designer.
Yeah. The signer. Yeah.
At least for a while, I think Fetty Wap was definitely
for sure.
a one-trick.
Yeah,
one-trick pony.
Yeah, he wasn't one album kind of guy too.
Yeah, if you go back and listen to his what's the word I'm looking for? Self-titled album, the first album that he ever put out that had Trap Queen on it, 679, My Way, all that shit. Every other song, like all the other songs on there that nobody knows, are like just trying to recreate
those exact same songs.
The Trap Queen sound.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of like singing in the same sort of. I mean, they're not bad songs. It's just he's singing in the same sort of cadence.
Yeah.
Like he's just doing that Fetty Wap thing. That like. Then there's like one hit wonder. I mean, Designer, like shit, man. Although I will say, dude, I was listening to Timmy Turner recently. That's a fire song.
Oh yeah,
man.
absolutely.
But I attribute it to like a lot of times I think they're a one-trick pony.
And even that album that he released that got kind of like drowned by the other like good music 7-track runs they did. Even that album had one good song. Remember that song "Overnight" that I used to play a little bit? He's just kind of him going like, "Oh, we're in the overnight." You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, that's
great.
A
good one.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah,
I think in terms of making hits, he was always capable. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that "Overnight" is on that first album with Timmy Turner.
What do you mean?
Like it's on that first album that he did. It's not the second one that he
Really?
did
But he
with
put it on the second one too. He put it on the
uh
second one too.
did
I'm
he?
100% sure. Yeah.
The seven song one? Like that he
Yeah.
did for Good Music?
Yeah.
LOD?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not on there.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm looking at the track list right now.
Designer. Huh. Then I got confused. And that means there's nothing in that. That means there's nothing in that album, dude. There's
No,
nothing in that
dude.
album.
I got curious when it first came out, and I was like, "This is garbage, man,
Yeah.
dude." Like, if you look it up on Wikipedia, I'm looking at it on
Oh yeah, it's not
Wikipedia
an
right
LOD.
now.
It's in the fucking first album, New English. You're right.
Yeah,
Huh.
dude. No, they don't even. Wikipedia doesn't even bother to put the reception or anything about the album in
LOD.
this page. Like Wikipedia is even like, "Yep, this is the fucking album by Designer,
Yeah.
and here's the background. And
That
here's the
really is all it
tracks.
says. It
Fuck
just
off."
says this is it. Yeah.
I can't believe he got Mike Dean on this album.
Well, because Mike Dean, it says Mike Dean did additional keyboards, Rhodes, synth bass on track 5. That's really all he did. Because you have to remember that Mike Dean is like, he was, I don't know if this is the case anymore, but he was just like the big boss goon at Good Music, where any good music artist had to, Mike Dean had to show up for every one of them. It was, I think it's like part of their contract. Part of their contract is when you make an album, at some point Mike Dean has to do something,
Yeah.
because he has
yeah.
credit. He has credit in everyone's albums. Like every good music album, he's done something in them.
Yeah. But so and one thing I think Kanye, like, or whoever runs Good Music or whatever. I know Pusha T is
He's the
like the
president.
CEO
Yeah,
now.
he's the CEO.
Um.
I think Kanye doesn't
But,
have
like-
anything to do with it anymore.
Okay. So, I mean, Good Music sort of fucked Designer over.
So I hear.
Because they released him in 2019, or he was released from Def Jam and became an independent artist.
Mhm.
Rest in peace, Designer as an independent artist, dude. You can forget it, man. Holy shit,
Yeah.
man, that guy's got no fans out there.
Oh no, dude. No.
Oh god, oh man.
No. He better just collect his pennies and see how long that lasts.
I feel bad for him because he actually, I think, kind of the same thing happened to him as Fetty Wap, because I think Fetty Wap had the same thing where the label was just holding him down and didn't allow him to like release stuff.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, they're just gonna fall off. Like people
Right.
are gonna forget about them, and
Right.
then when they finally come back, no one cares.
Because so many people complain about labels.
Except for weirdos like me that for some reason go back and still listen to like fallen off rappers.
Yeah, exactly. But
Like, dude, the harder the rapper fell off, the more likely I am to go and find what they're doing
to
now.
be like, hey, what's going on? You should make
Oh,
one
yeah.
of those YouTube channels. Like, where are they now? You should make one of those,
Yeah.
but just like dedicated to rappers that have fallen off.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though, right? Because it's like so many people have complained. So many artists in the past. Like I know that was like a big thing with that artist ZZA. And that was a big thing with Lil Uzi and like that album Eternal Take.
Yeah.
That they were just like all over social media being like, oh, the label won't let me put out any music. Because I think a lot of these artists, they sign these contracts, and at some point, all these contracts basically say you can only put out music if it's like approved by the label. Because the label has a bunch of other artists, and they don't want like your music competing with other people. And they also have a bunch of nerds in the background trying to figure out like timing, algorithmic bullshit. Be like, oh, we have to promote this on TikTok, and we have to do this, this, and that before we put out the album, and for like really creative artists like that, like SZA, who probably just wants to be making music and putting it out, I guess it's just like such like a pain to be just like held back. It's like you make a song and you're like, oh, I want to put it out, and they're like, no, you can't,
Yeah.
Yeah, and for some people, like, for some people that are not necessarily like, all that artistic, but are just hot, and they probably would benefit from just releasing a bunch of projects back to back to back, like Designer or like Fetty Wap, probably would have done them good to just let those guys be, especially if they were going to have such a limited time in the spotlight, like Block Boy JB.
Yeah, he's another one, man.
He's another one.
He's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost feel, and this is like a completely uneducated
I
point of
wonder what
view. I
that
have
guy's
no
up to.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I have no idea how this stuff works, but it almost seems like if someone's like Fetty Wap or, Black Boy JB or Designer,
Hmm.
very limited range, we'll say. Like
Yeah.
very talented, but just
Yeah.
very limited range.
Talented in their
Um,
own way, at least vocally, or
yeah.
in their deliveries.
Yeah. I mean, look, like, you can say what you want, but I mean, you'd be hard pressed if you're just some average Joe to like make a Fetty Wap song. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and sound halfway decent.
Absolutely. And
Um,
ultimately, that if they had really backed those guys up, like that if they had just like given Fetty Wap Drake's writers, that he would have
yeah,
still been around and successful. If he just had
yeah,
like a bunch of people like making hooks and writing songs for him and giving him like great production.
oh yeah,
So obviously Drake
definitely.
does that, and Drake sounds like he's like sleepwalking in all his songs, and somehow he's still
Yeah,
like like the number one artist in the world.
yeah. Well, and also
Passionless
too,
delivery he
like,
has.
yeah, and also too, I feel like also people like Designer and Fetty Wap, those dudes were like just they seem like nice guys. They just kind of stay like out of they don't beef with anybody and
Hmm.
stuff. And I feel like that almost hinders you a little bit in music.
Hmm.
Like if you're not,
If you're not causing drama,
yeah, I mean you don't have to be,
no,
but it can help if you're otherwise like Drake.
right?
It's like that helps Drake because he's musically I mean, dude, if Drake didn't have like beefs with people
Yeah, the Kanye beef, the
and put
Cudi
himself
beef, the
on the
Pusha T beef,
remix.
yeah,
Yeah, and put himself on the remix of every
every
single
big
hit that
song,
comes
yeah,
out,
every
he would
single
be
one,
musically fucking irrelevant,
yeah,
dude.
absolutely, absolutely,
No one would give a fuck about Drake if he
absolutely,
didn't do those two things. If he
yeah,
didn't beef with people here and there.
yeah.
Like it's once in a while. He's not like 50 Cent where he's
No, no,
beefing
it's
with
like
someone
beefing.
new
Yeah, and
every
people don't care
day.
about 50 Cent because 50 Cent has just become like the boy who cried wolf for that guy.
It is. Yeah, 50 Cent does it too much
Hmm.
where it's like he's trying to stay like relevant all the time and
Right,
but he's like trolling someone every day and it's
right,
like it becomes the norm, like it
yeah,
becomes boring.
yeah.
Um but with Drake it's like every couple years there's like one big
Big beef.
beef,
Oh yeah,
right? Like
because
one year it's Meek Mill,
yeah, because you
another
have to
year it's
remember, yeah, because
Pusha
like how
T.
much did it really hurt his career? You have to remember that because it's like the guy's still the biggest guy in the game. So obviously Pusha
Yeah.
T bodying him in 2018 didn't do anything. He got
No.
destroyed by Pusha T. Didn't do nothing. It
Right.
probably
Cuz
helped
he's
him
at least
sell
relevant.
more. Yeah, he's relevant, more aware. That makes people aware of like him, and that makes people aware of when his albums are coming out. People are always expecting the reply. That's why at some point the stuff with him and Kanye became like people were just like, this is just a publicity stunt. When it was just like, oh, when Donda and his Certified Lover Boy album came out in 2020, people were like, at this point, this beef is just a publicity stunt. So everybody's just aware of when one album comes out, and then that feeds into the next one because the next one is a reply one.
Yeah.
And that was how it
Yeah.
was. And the funny thing is that after the albums came out, I think like a month and a half later, they did that concert together. So it's like, well, what beef? If you guys are
Yeah.
here holding hands, and there's like footage of Drake like crying watching Kanye performing. It's like, come on, guys. You're full of shit.
And how does it work with it must depend with labels. It must depend on the deal, right? Because there you have an artist like Gucci Mane,
The
right?
Pusha T thing
Who
though was actually for real. I think that guy probably wants to kill Pusha T. But go on.
oh oh yeah, dude. That was oh man.
Yeah,
Pusha T fucking bodied that guy.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
listening to oh, hang on, that's another tangent. Let me stay on this for a second. So with record labels, dude, like the way I mean, because you have a guy like Gucci Mane, right?
Hmm.
Staying in rap, right?
Hmm.
Because I feel like rap, it's at the forefront, so we hear more about the rap music, the rap side of the music industry than we do about like other genres. I feel. Um. Anyway, like Gucci Mane, for example, right? Back in like the 2000s and the 2010s, the guy was releasing, like all these mixtapes, like even before prison, right?
Hmm.
He was signed, I think, to Warner Brothers record label, and he put out, an album every couple years, a studio album, but between those, he'd put out 3, 4 mixtapes, right?
Hmm.
What I'm wondering is there must be it must depend on the label, right? Where some labels will allow you to put out a mixtape on Apple Music, like self-release a mixtape.
Hmm.
But then if they said to like Fetty Wap or Designer, like, yeah, you can release a mixtape, those guys would have released mixtapes
Oh
at some
yeah,
point.
absolutely, absolutely.
Fetty Wap has now, but only after I believe Fetty Wap got dropped by Interscope or whoever he was signed
Well, they
to.
better have they better have dropped him if they know
Wait,
what's
let me
good. If they know
see.
what's good for them.
Let me see. Wait, is Fetty Wap is Fetty Wap alive?
Oh man, that's dark.
Oh, God, that's the first. That's the first. That's the first thing that comes up in Google. Okay, wait. Is Fetty Wap signed?
What if
He signed to the same label that Migos is
what if
signed to. I
what if
think
you click on
300.
that? What if you click on that and then it just says no? Like it's just like no further links. It's just you click on that and the answer is just whatever the Google thing is, just a white page and the words no. But then he's like actually legitimately alive. That's happened to like some celebrities where like it's I think that happened
Adam
like
Sandler.
yeah, that it was reported that he died, right?
Yeah,
But he was just
it was
alive
like
and
my freshman
kicking.
year.
Yeah.
It was like my freshman year of high school. It
Yeah.
was like huge. People were saying that he died in a skiing
Yeah.
accident or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fetty Wap's still signed, I think, to Atlantic
Huh.
Records. Yeah.
I guess they see some
Um.
juice they can get out of him.
Right. Right.
So we can still
But
get
there
something out of this
were
guy.
yeah, there were like 2 years where he didn't release one thing, and then he came out with that For My Fans mixtape that you and I actually kind of liked.
Hmm.
That he was just really singing on every
I
song. It was like a
remember.
really
Yeah.
solid
Yeah.
R&B mixtape. That was great.
Yeah.
Um, but there must be some rule with the labels. It must just depend on your deal, I guess.
I think it does. I think a lot of it is just like what kind of lockdown they got you on, and
Yeah.
and then just what they want to do with you. Because I think a lot of the time with artists, it's like Sony with like Spider-Man, where they were just like, oh, we're
Right.
gonna keep making this shitty Spider-Man movies, but we're gonna hold them hostage. Nobody else is gonna have this property. We're gonna make a movie every 5 years just to hold down the rights, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because like what's the benefit of just be having Fetty Wap signed or the signer signed to you? Nothing, because it's like I think it's just probably just I think these people are just probably scared because they're like, okay, you signed a contract with us for 15 years or whatever, and even if we
Hmm.
could technically release you, we're not gonna release you just out of the possibility that you're gonna be released and then you're gonna be make a huge hit again, and then you're gonna get signed by another company. Instead of
Yeah.
risking any of that, and you know that if that happens, somebody probably gets fired. They go like, "Hey, hey, where's he at?" And they find you and they fire you. So you were the one who let that happen. Instead of risking any of that happening, they just go like, "No, let's
Like
just
you were the one who signed Lil Reese to
yeah,"
Def Jam or
and then
something.
released him. And then he made a big hit. Instead of
Yeah.
risking any of that, I feel like they just go like, okay, let's just hold that guy down until he can never get back up.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Just out
Yeah,
of
it's
just out of the chance that he has any further potential.
dude, and that actually happens in the entertainment world. Vince Gilligan talked about it. That almost happened to Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
where they sold they sold the pilot to FX, but then FX didn't make it. They just shelved it.
Hmm.
But then when AMC came calling, when AMC demonstrated or displayed interest in it, Vince Gilligan was like, "Hey," he's like, "Hey, FX, he's like, FX, can we have that pilot for Breaking Bad back?
Yeah.
And God bless them, they gave it back to us.
Yeah.
Well, but they gave it back. But he said that that was actually, you know, a cool move on their part, because a lot of times a studio won't do that just in case it becomes
Exactly.
some hit and then they
Yeah.
feel like fools.
Yeah.
Which honestly, that's so stupid. How fucking childish is that? Like, oh my god, we regret so hard. We're so afraid of regretting being the ones who released Post Malone from his contract.
Mhm.
Like, how fucking petty is
But that's
that?
just the
You
reality
know?
of it, dude. And that's what I was saying to you, because you know that part of the reason why that's such a big thing is because somebody's gonna get fired. You know that. You know that if
Yeah.
any of these people release anybody that they have just like in this jail, where they just can't do anything, if anybody is the one who signs the release and then that person gets on to do something, anything else, somebody gets fired. Somebody gets
Yeah.
fired, a bunch of people probably just go like, okay, you're fired, and you're fired for being in the presence of me firing these other folks. And it all happens just because somebody let somebody else go, or somebody
Yeah.
let some property go that then ended up being what it was always supposed to be, which was, something.
Yeah.
Other than existing in this fucking vacuum of prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But
But
that's how it goes, man. And I feel like, getting back to the point, with the whole sophomore slump thing, I think that might have something to do. I think if you talk to these artists and I feel like if I talk to Cordae and I go like, hey man, why did it take you 2.5 years to release your second album? He'll probably say something along the lines of like, oh, they just wouldn't let me. He probably would say something along those lines. Like, oh, the label, they just told me, they would, every time they would not let the release until they said this is the time, and then I guess it was too late. My hype had died down, and by the time that I got to the studio, because I got the green light, creatively I was in a different place and I just couldn't do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, man. I'm looking right now at a list of albums that beat the sophomore slump. A little positivity here. Couple interesting ones. Nevermind by Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You could speak more to this. The Bends, Radiohead.
Oh yeah, Radiohead. Yeah, because and that's a case of a freshman blunder for Radiohead. Because Radiohead's first album sucks.
Oh, really?
Pablo Honey sucks, dude. It's just like this wannabe, like, it has no identity to it. They hadn't really figured out what they wanted to do. It was just an album where they're doing grunge, and nobody's really at their peak. Nobody's really at their best. Because Radiohead is really a group of musicians that are all like really kind of alternative, and they will all have their own ways. They all have their own voices. You know what I'm saying? Because every single one of those guys has had an incredibly successful career creatively, Tom York or Johnny Greenwood or any of those guys, That's why they've all done like soundtracks for movies. Like Johnny Greenwood has done the soundtrack for every Paul Thomas Anderson movie since There Will Be Blood. There Will Be Blood, awesome. The Master, oh geez, I'm blanking. Everybody's like, I'm supposed to know this. I took a class on this guy. Like he's done all of the soundtracks, And in the Bends is kind of where they started to be like, okay, this is who we are supposed to be. This is the kind of music that we want to be doing. And obviously then that kind of came to be more so concretely with OK Computer. But fucking Pablo Honey sucks, dude. Those guys are ashamed of that album, And funnily enough, that album has like haunted them their whole life. Because that song "Creep," which I don't personally like, is yeah, but that's a song that to this day Tom York has said that he's like ashamed of it because he just feels like he just feels like it's like a phony song that doesn't represent him. You know what I'm saying? Because it was just something
very grunge.
Yeah, it's like it's just something that he wrote and that they made in just like this grunge thing, and they're all like embarrassed about it. Yeah. But somehow
it was smack dab in 1993.
Yeah, but somehow it's still
they recorded it.
Somehow it's still like their most popular song, which feels bad because I think from my perspective subjectively, and I would even say like I would even go as far as say like almost nearly objectively, probably one of their worst like popular songs, if not the worst popular song they have.
That's funny. All I think of with that song is the episode of South Park where someone's like, "Who's Radiohead?" and then Cartman goes, "You know that band that sings that song."
Yeah. But it feels bad, man. It feels bad because I know that if you approach like any average Joe, it's probably the only thing that they like relate the band to. Whereas
Yeah.
for me, they're like top 3 greatest bands of all time. At least like rock band top 2 for me. It's a toss up.
This is interesting. The album title comes from a prank call sketch by the Jerky Boys, in which the caller poses as the victim's mother and says, "Pablo, honey, please come to Florida." It said the album drew comparisons to Nirvana. This is interesting. Dinosaur Jr. Have you heard of that
I
band?
have not heard of that band.
That's a pretty good
It's a pretty good
grunge
title. It's a pretty good like
band.
band name, Dinosaur Jr.
Well, so they used to be Dinosaur, but then because of legal issues, they had to change it. So they became Dinosaur Jr.
I'm looking at them right now. Yeah.
They're pretty good. They're like an alternative. They're not really.
Dinosaur Jr.
I don't find them. I've heard people call them grunge. I don't find them particularly grungy.
Alternative indie noise hard rock lo-fi.
Yeah.
Dinosaur
They have some
Jr.
grungy
And their first
songs,
album was called Dinosaur, but I think it's since been renamed to Dinosaur Jr.
Yeah, it has, I believe. Yeah. Yep. And now it has it on the cover. They put a junior by that dinosaur.
Oh my god.
Stick a junior on the end of that dinosaur, sir.
that way we will keep all the money from this. We won't have to give it to the lawsuit that we're being dealt with.
The other one on this list worth mentioning, albums that beat the sophomore slump. Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar.
I disagree. That album's good, the first one. It just wasn't popular, but it was good. I think that has
No, it's not saying the first one was bad. It's just saying it beat the sophomore slump.
Oh, okay. I got confused because I thought that it was like, because Radiohead's first album sucked, and then the second one was good.
No.
Okay.
I like that first Kendrick album as well.
Yeah.
ADHD, that's a fucking classic.
It'll be interesting if there was like a list of people, either, filmmakers or musicians that made like a really bad, shitty like first thing, and then the second thing was like really good.
Oh, I'm sure there's a list somewhere.
Yeah. But it's hard to kind of put like my finger on that, because I think usually, everybody just breaks out with like a big thing, and then they either fade into the distance, or they like successfully follow them up. Like Cudi with Men on the Moon 1 and 2.
Correct. Yep. Your opinion is correct, Edward.
I know, right? It's objective.
So we got, I'm looking at the timer. We got like 30 minutes left. So
yeah. You want to get into our weekly recap?
Yeah, let's do it. We're doing a shorter one this week, folks.
Yeah.
Sorry, but we're not sorry. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Plus, some of you out there might enjoy this a little bit more than our usual 2-hour plus podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, you all skip through the chapter. You all go to the chapters that you want to hear that look interesting to you anyway. Yeah. I do the same thing. It's okay, guys.
Yeah.
All right. So, you go first, Edward. Weekly, or in this case, the past 3 weeks, listening and viewing. Go.
Well, I'm gonna get to a couple of things that you and I have both experienced. And by that I mean
past weekend.
Some comedy specials. Because part of the reason why Mr. Jake and I postponed at least one of the past 2 is because he was here. Jake and I were growing out with my brother, all 3 of us, and we had a great old time. And during that time, we also consumed quite a bit of art. I'll get into that in a bit. But in my end, I listened to a handful of albums, as I always do. like a lot of it. I was like thinking to myself, I was like, what? It's like, what did I listen to? Because I couldn't even remember because it was like so much stuff stacked up on top of itself. But I remember that last time I mentioned listening to D'Angelo, right?
Hmm. Dude, by the way, I just want to say real quick,
Hmm.
I on my way back from your house, I was listening to The Comet Is Coming.
Hmm.
I
Oh,
forgot
dude,
to tell
how
you
how
that.
sick is that, man?
Fantastic,
How
man. So
sick
good.
is that?
Anyway, I just wanted to mention that real quick. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
like any
D'Angelo.
any any opportunity that anybody can have, if somebody
Yeah.
wants to comment in the comment section and just tell me like, oh, I discovered something because of you, that would be great because that makes me feel really makes me feel like this whole thing that I'm doing, listening to all these albums is worth something. Because a lot of these albums are like really strange albums that I stumbled upon. Some of them are just albums that I stumbled upon because they're like on lists, or because I watched like a Fantana review, or because I like
Yeah.
go on Pitchfork almost every day. But other albums that I listen to are just like completely just things that I'm like, that looks cool, and I've never seen anybody mention that.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm glad. And there's albums that I listen to too that Fantano hates, and I've happened to really like. So there might be a little bit of that too, where it's like people they hate it, but I like it, and maybe somebody else can see something in there. I listened to the Danger Mouse, and you might know that name because he made a handful of collaborative albums with MF Doom. I listened to
Hmm.
a collaborative album he did with Black Thought of the Roots fame, the same band that performs with Jimmy Fallon every fucking day of his fake laughing life. But I listened to his critically acclaimed album Cheat Codes, and it was great. It's I think 10 tracks long, if not 11, and it's great. It's just great front to back. Specifically, I want to shout out like a specific song from here. Specifically, the posthumous song that he has with MF Doom called Belize, featuring MF Doom.
Hmm.
That song number 6. Also, the song number 5 featuring Joy Badass called Because. Those two songs, so those are like the starred ones on Apple Music too. Those two songs are great, and also the song 12. There's 12 tracks. The song 12 with called Violas and Lupitas, great. Great, 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 great. Black Thought deserves all the praise, and this album has gotten a lot of it. Fantastic, fantastic album. And I'm not gonna mention Dave Heaven because I've mentioned them before. I've skipped through them because I've already listened to other albums. But Dave Heaven is amazing. And I think I've introduced you to a bit of them, right, Jake?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, they're like shoegaze black metal band, and they're great screamo. Death Grips is my all-time favorite hip hop group, and I love them, and I love all of their albums. So if anybody wants to hear somebody scream at their ears, if anybody wants to hear what has been described in the past as a homeless man screaming at the top of his lung into your ears, listen to Death Grips. There's much more than that. A lot of those songs are beautiful. A lot of those songs are just frenetic. But it's experimental, industrial hip hop, and they're the ones that make that the best. There's nobody who makes industrial experimental hip hop better than those guys.
Oh yeah. I love quite a few of Death Grip
Yeah.
songs. Very great lyricism and subject
Oh
matter
yeah,
as well.
absolutely, absolutely. Very inspirational for me. Those guys. Then I listened to Denzel Curry's "Melt My Eyes, See Your Future" just because I've listened to that before, and I've re-listened to it again, and it's great. 8 out of 10, great hip hop record. I think it's probably one of the best ones from when it came out. I think it was 2021. Yeah, no, it was 2022, so it was last year. Great, love that album. Almost every song in there, it's great. Specifically the song X-Wing, which I really love that song, and I've mentioned that before. But also T-Pain has a song in there, number 7, called Troubles, which is great. Then I listened
Yeah,
to
that song's great.
my probably top one, if not at least like top three, favorite, singer songwriter of all time, Destroyer, whom the music doesn't match the name because his music is like very like baroque, like very instrumental, like jazzy, throwback, like dream pop, but I love him. I love Destroyer. And I listened to his 2006 album, Destroyer's Rubies, which I loved. That was great. If anybody wants a recommendation from that one, song number 4, Painter in Your Pocket, is amazing. And then I listened to Have We Met, which is his 2020 album. And that also is an amazing record. I would give both those albums 8 out of 10s, if not 9s, honestly. But I listened to Have We Met, and if anybody wants a recommendation from that one, the very first song, Crimson Tide, is great. If not that one, then number 3, It Just Doesn't Happen. And I listened to his last album from last year called Labyrinthitis, and I did not like it. It's like the very first time that Destroyer has not come through for me, but I still believe in him. But I give that album like a 6 out of 10. It just wasn't for me, ultimately. Then I listened to an instrumental hip-hop album from 1996 called Endtroducing. So instead of introducing, just E-N-D, Endtroducing, by DJ Shadow. It's like a very influential, it's like on a lot of just like, top like hip-hop, like instrumental records. And I enjoyed it. It wasn't ultimately for me because it's a little bit kind of too... I didn't really came out of that one with too much. Just a couple of songs, really. Like the ones that are highlighted on Apple Music with the stars. Songs number 2, Building Steam with a Grain of Salt or whatever. And then song number 3, Midnight in a Perfect World. I really enjoyed those tracks. The other ones just kind of, melded into the background. So I don't really recommend that one too much. Unless you just want to listen to, an instrumental hip-hop album that people say it's great. I listened to, and I'm almost finished. I know it's a lot of albums, but it was a few weeks. I listened to It's Dark and Hell's Hot by DMX, which fits into the movie of the week because we're talking about Belly, which stars DMX. I listened to It's Dark and Hell's Hot, and it was great. I did not have a lot of appreciation for DMX as a rapper coming into this because I never really liked his hits. Like, I never really, you know what I'm saying?
X gonna give it to you.
Exactly.
Gonna give it to you.
When you listen to that, X gonna give it, that kind of, it's like such a meme song, and it feels like so like watered down, And even like Rough Riders anthem, like that is a Rough Riders, like even that one, like his hits never captivated me. I always left them just kind of being like, all right, and
hit songs are never good.
Yeah. And Rough Riders Anthem is in this album, but the funny thing is that everything else in this album, it's really good, Everything else here is really good. I mean, there's some questionable songs here and there, but I still would give this album like a 7 or an 8. Like, I had a great time, It's gonna stay in my albums, because anything that I give less than a 7, I just delete it from my, my albums. And I just add like the songs that I liked from it into my playlist. But this album's staying, and a lot of these songs, like song number 3, Fucking with D, song number 5, Look Through My Eyes, song number 6, Get At Me Dog, 7, Let Me Fly, 8, X Is Coming, funnily enough. And the song X Is Coming has like that's like a little interpolation of the whole Freddy Krueger thing. You know what I'm talking about?
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Yeah, but it's like X is coming for you,
Oh my god,
it's a silly song. But specifically above everything else, song number 10, How's It Going Down, is a highlight above everything else. Great song, because that dude, X above everything else, I think sounds the best, and it's like the best above everything else in songs where he's not fucking screaming and going like, that's a Rough Riders, like songs like How's It Going Down, where he's just rapping very cool, I feel like that's him at his best, and I think a lot of people actually have kind of expressed that, and listening to his album and listening to those kind of songs also kind of made me a little bit emotional, just knowing that he passed away, seeing Belly, having in my mind also like that Kanye song with Andrew 3000, Life of the Party, where he is like sampled at the end. It all kind of comes together in my mind, and it kind of affected me a little bit. But I recommend that album. I think it's great. And I think it speaks to that guy and his legacy as an artist. He was pretty good. I listened to Dr. Dre's The Chronic, and it just helped me arrive at the realization that by far and beyond, Dre's greatest album is 2001. It's the best one.
Okay.
2001 is like a 10 out of 10, like it's so good. Dr. Dre has never touched that album in his discography. The Chronic doesn't touch it. Like they removed it from Apple Music because I guess Dre might be under the impression like this is my album that I put my money on. But it's like no, it's not as good as 2001 like at all. Like I'll give the Chronic like a light 7. Like it's barely like hanging on to that good rating. 2001.
I can see that. I wasn't
miles
like
above it.
Yeah, when I first listened to the Chronic, I wasn't really blown away by it as well. I always preferred. I'm always not always. I'm like bumping songs from 2001 like quite a good bit. Not the Chronic.
Yeah, not the Chronic. The Chronic, it has a few dip cuts in there, but it's not as good as 2001. And then finally, the last thing that I listened to, or rather, I'll mention two more things. I ended up listening to the second half of the Logic album. After you sent me that track.
Oh yeah.
Jake sent me.
For those who don't know, Logic did a song. That album came out pretty recently, I think, right? He did a song with Brian Griffin, also known as Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah. The album was called College Park. It came out on the 24th of last month.
Yeah. I liked he had a post about it too that Seth MacFarlane shared, but Logic basically said like, thank you to Seth MacFarlane for being on my album. His shows made me smile like during times when I was, hopping from between group homes and it was nice.
I liked it. Jake sent it to me and it was a nice song. It's like the most popular song on the album because it's like the starred one on Apple Music. But I liked it and I was like, oh, this is great. And when I texted to you, I was like, oh, it's like great that he is kind of recognizing Seth and just kind of giving him that moment. Because I think he deserves it, obviously. Like, Family Guy, regardless of what everybody wants to say or regardless of what everybody said, in its prime, it was the best, like cartoon on television. And it made me listen to the rest of it, and there's a few other good songs in there, but ultimately I was just like I would never listen to this again, and it's because every song, regardless of if it was good or bad, had a skit at the end of it.
Yeah,
like every one of those songs had like the song. Every single one of those songs was like 2.5 minutes, and then it would have like a 2.5 minute like skit of this like ongoing story that they're having. Because the album is an hour and 7 minutes long, and it's only 17 tracks. And I feel like a bulk of that is just the skits that they do in the ends of these things, of like Logic going to a performance or Logic just talking. And it's not, it's not it, I was like, no. A few of them work and then most of them don't work. And then most of them just bog themselves down and make me go like, I cannot have this song in any playlist, because at some point it's just gonna be like Logic and whoever the other guys recording these skits with him are, and I'm gonna get upset. So I enjoy the songs and I enjoy the experience of listening to half of that album. And I listened to like half, and I think I don't know if you did, but of the new Don Toliver album that came out last week.
Oh, dude, I still haven't listened to that. God damn it!
I listened to half,
forgetting.
And the only thing that I can say to you is, if you never remember, that's fine. It's so forgettable, man. Like this is this dude's third album, and somehow he's managed to like stay relevant. Like people have not treated him the same way they did Chance or Cordae or Roddy Rich, but every single time that this dude puts something out, I'm always like, this is the most uninteresting, like boring, like falls into the background music. He's
such a one-trick pony.
He is absolutely, man, absolutely.
Because when I first heard "Can't Say," Travis Scott's song "Can't Say," and he came on that track, I was like, holy shit, this is one of the best rap verses I've ever heard. Like it was so good. his feature on that song, amazing. He's such a presence. But then he just recreates that verse on every song that he makes, every
Yeah.
song that he's featured in. He has the same fucking. He sings the same
Yeah.
in the same
Cadence.
cadence.
Yeah. He's also a Fetty Wap.
Dude, same cadence. Like,
Yeah.
you
You can
can't say.
tell.
And then on another song, he's like, in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the same fucking cadence.
Yeah.
You're saying the same shit.
Yep.
And I hate that he's making me sing to actually demonstrate this, which is
Yeah.
fucking horrendous.
Both you
but
and I,
whatever.
my friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, like if you don't make an effort to listen to that, it doesn't matter. Like this is not a Yachty situation where it's like, oh, he really came through with something. No, no. Like, what's his name? Don Toliver. He didn't do anything worth mentioning. Like anything. Actually, one song, and there's like a song in there with what's his face, with James Blake. There's a song in there with James Blake, and that's it. That's the only thing worth anything. And the funny thing is that I think a lot of the reception that I've heard for Lovesick, his album, has been that people just don't. I think nobody cares for it. It's one of those albums that just came and went, honestly. But the song with James Blake, which is not even the most popular song on the album, it's like one with Glorilla, which sucks, called "Leave the Club." Atrocious song, like atrocious, dude. But the best song in there is the second song called "Let Her Go" with James Blake, and that's it. That's the only thing worth anything. And it's not because of fucking Don Toliver, because he sucks in that song too. It's only because of James Blake, because James Blake is James Blake, That's the only reason. Everything else
That's track 6.
Which one?
The one you're talking about.
It's the second one.
Oh, I'm looking at the deluxe version, I think.
No, dude, no, there's a deluxe version. There's a version of this album with even more trash in it.
Oh yeah.
As it
he
goes.
already released a. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and in that one, the most popular one is the one with Travis Scott, and I did listen to that, and that also sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Travis doesn't do anything worth talking about between his albums.
No, he doesn't.
Travis,
he's like the most
he's an artist.
made features artist ever.
Yeah, Travis Scott. Like I really enjoy his music. Like a lot of people do. Like all 3 of his albums for me are solid, very re-listenable. But between albums, his singles and his features suck ass. They're so bad.
Yeah.
They're so goddamn bad. Yeah. Butterfly Effect. Horrible song.
Yeah.
Fucking
I like that song.
Highest in the Room. Shit.
Yeah, Highest in the Room, that song.
Terrible song. Whatever song he did recently, Escape Plan or whatever, garbage. Dude, that guy's singles suck so bad. Man.
Absolutely. But that's it for me.
Down in Atlanta, not great. Goosebumps remix. Dude, I'll be fine if I never hear Goosebumps.
I'll be fine if I never listen to that. Or if I just listen to the first minute of that and never anything else, because that Kendrick part of that song is horrendous. It haunts me, that part of Kendrick. That's incredibly bad. And Kendrick is another one. Kendrick is another one that is like, if he features in anybody else's thing that is not him or like his cousin, it usually sucks.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for me, man. What you got? What you listen to? What you watch?
Yeah, so and I'll fly through these a little bit, but next week I actually do want to talk more about especially one of these here. So since the Wishmaster episode, I watched Killer Joe with Matthew McConaughey.
That's right.
Yep, the William Friedkin film with Matthew McConaughey. There were things about this movie that I liked, particularly Matthew McConaughey. He's awesome.
That was during what they named the McConaissance, where he was just making a bunch of good movies.
Yeah. So and Matthew McConaughey in this movie, I mean, he's fucking scary. I mean, think like think it's like Lalo meets Anton Chigurh.
Yeah, I was gonna mention Anton Chigurh.
Yeah, it's like more. It's like more lighthearted than Anton Chigurh, but less clownish
Mm-hmm.
and joking around and smiley than Lalo Salamanca.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought the movie was just kind of like it's interesting at first, and then it just it's very vulgar. It really devolves by the end.
Mm-hmm.
There's literally a scene where Matthew McConaughey's character um forces a woman to like he basically holds a chicken drumstick where his like pelvis is, and he like makes her like suck on it for like 5 minutes, and
Oh,
I'm just like, this is
jeez. Yeah, that sounds
like this is
sounds not very pleasant.
no. I was just kind of like, this is really fucking trashy and dumb.
Yeah.
Um, I saw The Whale,
Yeah, that's
Brendan
right.
Fraser,
Who
Darren
won
Aronofsky.
Best Actor? He won an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Let's
congrats to
go.
him.
The Renaissance is in full swing.
Yeah, it's the Renaissance now. It's the Fraser sons.
Good for him, man. I mean, he got a raw deal, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna trust me, folks. I have a lot more to say about this movie. We'll get into it next week.
Yeah, we'll get into it. We'll talk about it. I
But
might watch it between now and then.
you should, because this movie is great.
Yeah.
I loved The Whale. I don't care. I know it's divisive. I'm on the side of people who loved it. Like, this was a great movie. Such a powerful performance. Dude, I rewatched a scene from it today,
Mm-hmm.
and my eyes actually started like watering a little.
Mm.
They started like my eyes began to mist. Like I'll admit it. I will admit it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No shame, dude.
But I will get into that movie next week. I have much more to say. I watched for the first time Training Day.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke.
Yeah. Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. Yeah, this movie, it's all right.
It's all right.
It's fine.
I think if you saw
It's
my
fine.
rating, when you rated it, I probably rated it around the same thing you did.
I think we did rate it about the same. I gave it a 6 out of 10.
I think I might have
stars.
given it like a 5.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I mean, Denzel's character is cool and interesting. His performance is good. Yeah, it just, and it has some good parts and stuff. It's not bad. It just felt kind of it just felt underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't love it, didn't hate it. Thought it was watchable.
Yeah.
I watched the documentary on Netflix, the Murdaugh murders, a Southern scandal. Did you hear about this guy, Matt Murdaugh?
Mm-mm.
He recently got so I won't get into it now. It's too long of a story, but he's from South Carolina. He was like a prominent lawyer, and he just got convicted a couple weeks ago of murder. Dude, this is like a Hitchcock tale. I mean, it's like a Hitchcock movie. This guy's the whole story. They actually seemingly adapted part of it for that new Dexter miniseries, which was really interesting. But yeah, I Google that case.
What's it called again?
Matt Murdaugh, and the documentary is called Murdaugh Murders: A Southern Scandal. Really good documentary, and I was glad that I knew very little about this case, other than the fact that my sister actually worked on this case as like a paralegal type of deal for an internship. So she actually was like in some of the depositions and stuff.
Yeah.
This case, I would have to ask her again. I can't, because this was like a couple summers ago now.
Yeah.
I can't, or no, it was last summer. I can't quite remember what her involvement was.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was like one of the lawyers in the case. I think he was a lawyer for one of the victims' families. I can't remember. Because back then it was like the details it was hard to keep it all straight because it's so much, dude. That's why I won't even get into it because it's way too much. The documentary Dude, the documentary is so good because it just keeps peeling back the layers of the
The
onion
liars.
of this fucking like crooked murdering lawyer, and you're
Yeah,
just like, man, wow.
yeah,
This past weekend, you and I watched Creed 3,
that's right.
which we'll talk about next week.
Yes.
Great. You and I watched Louis C.K.'s latest special for the first time.
That's right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we both seem to find it underwhelming, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. Underwhelming for Louis. He's better than that, but it was still alright.
Yeah, no, it wasn't bad by any means. It was just I for Louis C.K. the bar is so high. I mean, I want to be rolling around on the fucking floor laughing from Louis specials, and this one had me laughing like pretty hard, but I wanted a little more out of it.
Same here.
And then we also watched another night that I was up there. We watched Chris Rock's special.
Yes, the hot special of the day.
Yeah, I thought that was fine. A solid, 3-star special.
Yeah.
Comedy special for me. Not much to say about that. And then finally, the other day I watched on Hulu a documentary called Sasquach, and it's really interesting. It's basically the log line goes, investigative journalist David Holthouse attempts to solve a bizarre 25-year-old triple homicide that was said to be the work of a mythical creature. Really interesting documentary. It's creepy too. I like creepy documentaries.
You said it's called what?
It's called Sasquach.
Okay.
Really interesting. Very creepy documentary. Kind of has like a Blair Witch feel almost to it. Like not in terms of people being lost in the woods, but just that feeling of like sort of the feeling that you get from the first part of Blair Witch where they're asking the town folk about the witch and stuff. Like, yeah, it's just one of those creepy like backwoods folklore kind of things. And this guy talks about his experience in the early 90s when he worked on a pot farm in Humboldt County or near Humboldt County in California in the Pacific Northwest. And this guy came to their home base panicked saying like, oh my God, they're dead. Like a Bigfoot killed them. A fucking Bigfoot killed them. And so he's kind of going down this path of like trying to figure out, what happened. So it was really interesting. Pretty good.
All right.
And then, yeah, I've been, let me see. What else? What shows? Have I been watching shows? I've just been continuing to watch Mr. Robot. I'm on season 2 of Mr. Robot now.
How's that going?
It's good. I felt like it lost its footing a little bit for a couple episodes, but it's getting back on the rails for me. I think sometimes in TV, writers take particularly like when the main character is down, like they're down, right? They're down and out. You got to be, I think TV writers need to be very careful for how long they stretch that out. 1 episode max, and then get your main character's ass back on his feet.
Right.
Because the audience, they did that. That was a big mistake they made in The Walking Dead, where it's like season 7 or something. Rick gets like really punked down by the Negan character, and he spends an entire season just being subservient to Negan, and you're just like, this fucking sucks, dude.
Yeah.
Rick is this badass hero, and now because you're a surrogate, the protagonist is your surrogate of the story.
You feel like you're down.
You start to feel like a punk bitch, So so it's back on the rails, and it's keeping my interest effectively. And I'm excited to start the second half of the new season of You. But I haven't started it yet, but I might get that started this weekend.
Yeah.
But that's it for me.
Okay. Well, what do you say, mister? What do you say if we get into the movie of the week? As I mentioned at some point in this podcast, we watched 1998's movie Belly, that was written and directed by famous music video director Hype Williams, and it stars a bunch of rappers. It stars DMX, and it stars Nas, and it features a bunch of other people like Method Man. What do you think? What do you make of that movie?
Yeah, so probably beating a dead horse here, saying nothing new about this film from what I could see from like critic reviews that I read. I thought the same exact thing that most critics seem to come to a consensus on, which was that this movie is very, on a technical level, it's like really solid. I loved like the lighting, the mood. Like,
Yeah,
the
visually it was
atmosphere of
very
the scene.
impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, that noir feel with the narration, the soundtrack, the shootouts, you know, that feeling of like a grimy underworld city.
Those first 5 minutes were great too.
Yeah, man. I mean, they capture that so well in this movie. I mean, this movie captured that noir feeling almost better than actual film noirs. Like this neo-noir film did a better job of most film noirs capturing the film noir feeling. I felt. I may have said most film noirs. I mean some film noirs. It did a better job than some film noirs of capturing that feeling. I thought the plot was cool. Like the actual plot itself of like, you know, shit that was happening. Thank you for defining a plot, Jake.
Could you explain that? Not explain what like a plot is. I'm not trying to meme on you, but if you could, if at some point you could try to, and if you can't, that's fine. Be like, this is what happened in this movie 1, 2, and 3. Do you think you could do that?
If I could, like, if I wanted to, not very well. I mean, I'd get like a C probably. 'Cause this movie made me feel like a kid, like when I was a kid, right? And I would like half-ass read a book, and then I'd have a test on it. And I'd go into the test like, oh, I could do this. And then I'd be like, oh, fuck, I didn't actually read the book.
But you can pass. And I'm saying this to you, man, because I've watched this movie now 2 times. And I couldn't tell you what the fuck happens in this movie. Like, dude, I watched this movie 2 times. Not only that, before we did this podcast, I read the plot on like Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what happens in this movie. This movie's convoluted.
So convoluted.
This movie's so fucking convoluted. It's ridiculous. Like,
well, because they try to pack a Game of Thrones plot. And what I mean by Game of Thrones is like all these chess pieces, all of these political kind of maneuvers and stuff between factions. But they pack that all into like an hour and a half.
That's exactly it. Because there's like shit that happens in this movie that are like they're like conversation, like just non sequiturs. You know?
Yeah.
It's just like you leave a scene, and then the next scene is just something else completely. You know, which just always makes you think like, what in the heck is happening? You know, and man, I was paying attention to this movie, and even when I was paying attention to this movie, I was like, I don't know what's happening right now. Like when they go to that dude's house, like when they go to like that Jamaican guy's house, and he might not be Jamaican, I apologize. But when he goes to his, he is. When he goes to his house to like, when he goes to his house to kill him, I'm like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? What is going on? You know. I was like, why are they trying to kill this man? And
it was revenge for the guy in the diner, I guess.
Which guy? What are you talking about?
So like the diner scene when those 3 were at the table, and then the 2 pulled out the guns and were pointing at each other.
That was not that, dude. That was not the reason. No, that was not the reason for why that happened.
Yeah, no, the guys, that was Sosa, and the guy's friend found out about it and sent the hit squad to the Jamaican guy's house.
Are you sure that that's what happened?
I'm like positive.
Dude, I don't know if that's what happened. Like,
I just told you I'm positive. Edward's like, I don't know.
I don't know if that's what happened, man. I don't know. I'm gonna trust you. I read the Wikipedia page about this, and the Wikipedia page suggested otherwise. It suggested that it was like
say?
It said that it was because
I too read the Wikipedia.
Really?
Because I was fucking confused as shit.
Well, then both.
I was like, there's no way I could fucking keep track. I can't keep
Yeah,
it all straight, dude.
yeah.
It was insane.
So what is like? I'm looking this up right now because I want to see like what happened there. Because I thought that he got hit on because DMX's character did something. Let me see. Tommy Coles, blah blah, Harlem, shadowy organization, unclear motives. Tommy leaves Jamaica and repays Oggs by killing Sosa, the son of a local drug lord. Back home, Tommy's girlfriend is arrested. Tommy finds out about the raid and leaves town. Pelpa, a close friend of Sosa, finds out that Oggs ordered the hit on Sosa. Peppa
Okay.
sends a hit squad to kill Ox in his home. Ox kills most of, I mean, we watched this movie and here I am reading the
Told you.
Wikipedia plot. Most of the hitmen before dying at the hands of a female assassin. Sincere, blah, 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 Africa, planning to leave. Meanwhile, while laying low in Atlanta, Tommy instigates an argument between Weiss and Lakid. Is that what you were talking about?
No. You just glossed over it. It was the female assassin kills him.
But why does it
said
kill him?
right there?
Why does she kill him?
You just read it
No,
out
I know
loud.
that I just read it, but what I'm saying to you is, like, when what restaurant scene are you talking about?
It's like right before the scene where the female assassin ridiculously jumps from the fucking banister and kills. Like that bumped so bad.
But what is it like? What is it that you're saying that happened that caused that to happen?
The diner, the three dudes are sitting there.
Uh-huh.
Tommy is he's paying Ox back for the heroin that got seized.
Uh-huh.
And he's doing so by killing that Sosa guy.
And he
who
kills
was one of the three people that were sitting there at the diner. And that's that scene where Sosa and the other guy take out their guns and point them at each other. And then everybody's like, ah.
And that's the scene where like Tommy... But what I'm saying
Tommy
is...
just lets himself get arrested.
No, that happens after that, dude. That's what I'm saying to you. Like, even in the Wikipedia page, it says it right here. After that, it says, meanwhile, while laying low in Atlanta, Tommy instigates an argument between Weiss and Lakid, two marijuana dealers.
Okay.
Which ends with both men drawing their guns. That's what you got me confused. I was like, dude, I read the Wikipedia page about this.
Shit. Okay.
That's what I'm saying to you. This movie makes no sense.
Dude, it's way too convoluted.
Because that's why I asked you, like, why did they kill that guy? Because in the movie, if you read the Wikipedia page, it says that at some point in the movie, DMX killed a guy named Sosa, and I could not tell you when that happens. But somehow that triggers them going to that Jamaican guy's house and killing him.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so okay. Yeah, so and this is the thing, dude, you and I have seen thousands of films. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you and I can't follow this film is not our fucking fault.
I couldn't follow this film.
It's not our fault. We're not stupid. The film is stupid.
I watched this twice. I read the Wikipedia page and everything, and I still couldn't follow this fucking movie.
And you still failed the test, Edward.
Yeah. No, I couldn't follow it, man. I couldn't do it. This is like such a movie by somebody who doesn't, Hype Williams, he never made a movie again after this, and I think it shows because I think he realized like I should not have done that.
Yeah,
it's like grown like a cult following for some reason, and I think people are following this movie for the wrong reasons, because I think it has nothing to do with the fact of it being anywhere near a good movie. I think it just has to do with like visuals and like vibes,
which there's something to be said for that. I mean, that's why I wouldn't give this movie like a really shit rating. I think I gave it a 6 the first time that I watched it. For whatever reason I did that. I think this time I would just give it like a 5, maybe a 4. Yeah, I would have to give it a 4.
Yeah,
I want to give it a 5, but
it's not good.
Go to a 4,
and it's unfollowable.
Yeah, because it's
unfollowable.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I also found it's so fucking preachy, dude.
It
Literally,
is
there's
extremely
a goddamn
preachy.
preacher at the end.
Yeah.
So preachy. Like by the end, dude, I just wanted to start going, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
It was so preachy.
Yeah. It was, and because
So yeah,
the message becomes so
if you
clear,
like movies that don't make sense
and that preach
at
at
all and
you
you
the
can't
last
follow
25 minutes.
and
Yeah,
they preach at you, but they're really visually interesting with awesome vibes, then
yeah,
check out Belly.
and great
What were you gonna
music,
say?
great music.
Yeah.
It has like D'Angelo in the soundtrack. It has Nas music in the soundtrack. DMX music in the soundtrack. It has a bunch of like great music. It's like great music. Looks nice. That's really it.
Yeah.
Everything else is not. Everything else is not there.
The
Even the
the
performances. A lot of the performances are like really questionable.
yeah, for sure.
And
Another
there's
thing,
scenes. Go ahead.
this movie's vibes are really similar to that Ghost Dog movie with
They
Forrest
they are,
Whitaker.
yeah, they are very similar to Ghost Dog, and it feels like it's taking a lot of movies like that. Like there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where they're watching a Harmony Korean movie, a movie called Gummo, and I was like, oh, that kind of says something about this. The fact that they're watching, like, that's like a cult acclaimed cult Harmony Korean movie. And I was like, the fact that
Yeah.
they're watching this, kind of says something about like the headspace that, let's say, Hype Williams was in, and like maybe how he kind of wants movie people to perceive the movie. But yeah, no, not Hype Dog, Ghost Dog was better than this.
Yeah. Ghost Dog was. I have my issues with the Ghost Dog
I do
movie as
too,
well.
because I do too. I do
The
too.
movie's very pretentious,
Yeah, it is
in
very
my opinion,
pretentious. I agree, and
but
underwhelming.
but it's also it has those everything good you could say about this movie, you could say about Ghost Dog, but then it has a plot that's at least you could at least follow
Yeah,
and has some like solid, uh action set pieces, I guess, as
yeah,
well.
and Forrest Whitaker is always good, acting
Oh
as a little
yeah.
samurai.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's
uh
it. I really don't have that much else to say. I appreciated seeing a movie with DMX and Nas, I guess, but everything else I don't even remember. Like the movie just existed in my head and then it ceased to exist.
yeah.
Sorry, Belly. I'm
um
sorry, Hype Williams.
so 5 out of 10.
Yeah, 5-4. I think It's like a coin toss for me.
I'm gonna have to give it a 4.
But this is some trivia that I got about it. In the movie, they're actually smoking. Whenever you see those guys smoking, they actually are. Um, uh, DMX based his performance on on like Joe Pesci's character Tommy from Goodfellas, and that's why his name is Tommy in the movie too. Because even Hype Williams, when he wrote, I guess, the character, he was basing it on Tommy from Goodfellas.
Dude, I did not detect that. I mean, I
There's
guess it's like, I mean, it's a similar archetype, I
yeah,
guess, but yeah,
there
no,
is a
good
Belly
try.
2. I don't know if you looked this up or if you were aware of this. There's a
I did
sequel
see
to this
that.
movie, and it stars the Game, the rapper, the Game.
Oh no,
Yeah.
the game.
So
I love the game.
for any
I love
big The
the
Game
game.
fans who want to like see him act in a sequel to this, you can go and check that out. But if this movie has like a cult following, despite like the horrible ratings, the movie has horrible ratings without the cult following. Because I guess Hype Williams didn't come back, so there's something. There must be something going on there.
Dude, the game tried. So the game has way better music than 50 Cent, in my opinion,
Mhm.
but everything else that 50 Cent did outside of rap, he did like kind of successfully, and the
Mhm.
game just failed. Like the game failed at like acting in movies and TV shows. Like he
Yeah,
failed.
he
Like
did. He
yeah.
did big time.
Everything that 50 Cent tried to do.
He succeeded. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but the game fucking dude, the game did not succeed at anything
No,
outside of rap.
no.
Not that I
Um,
know of.
but another piece of
I love
trivia.
him to death, man. I mean, dude, he's like in my top 5
I know he
favorite
is.
rappers.
Yeah,
I mean, he was, for a while I called him my number 1
yeah.
favorite
Did you
rapper.
listen to his last album, the one that Kanye made that song for?
Yeah.
Huh? What do you think about that?
Um,
I never listened to it. I didn't bother.
uh, I wasn't big on it.
Okay.
It was very disappointing
Yeah.
for me.
But this is a funny piece of trivia. the production was troubled because of Hype Williams clashing with producers, right? They had budgetary problems because apparently they used up all their budget for this movie, or not all the budget, but like a lot of it. Just shooting like the first scene where they like go to that club and kill those guys. Or that guy. I don't remember how many people they kill. And not only that, but a huge part of the problems they had with the movie also was like staying on schedule because the cast of the movie was always late, and a lot of them would show up drunk, and a lot of them would show up high.
Terrible.
So you get, man. And yeah, most of the budget was spent on that first scene. And yeah, it has a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. But interestingly enough, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 87% audience rating.
What's the audience rating again?
87.
Wow.
And the critics is 24. Yeah, so there's a big discrepancy. The people actually like this movie.
That's massive, yeah.
Yeah.
A massive discrepancy.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's it for Belly is what I got.
That's it, everybody. That's all I got as well. So
look forward to next week. We'll talk about Creed
next week. Yep, exactly. Next week, Creed 3. Be there or be square.
Yeah. By next week, we'll talk about Creed, and we will have seen Creed 4. So we'll do a retrospective of all the Creed movies, and then we'll also talk about all of the Rocky movies. So get ready for that.
Yeah. We'll do a retrospective on John Wick 7.
Yeah. All right,
folks.
We're out.
That'll do, donkey.
Until next time.